Like to call to order the Town of Fraser Board of Trustees meeting on Wednesday, March 18th at 6 o'clock. Can I have a roll call, please?
Adam Quicklin,
Peggy Smith.
Julie White.
Louis Gregory.
And Brian Cirkovic. Can I have an approval of the agenda with a change? We're going to move discussion possible action item resolution 2026-0309. We'll move that to E in the agenda and then shift the rest down. The person from Magellan is not going to be available until a little later.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes for March 4th, 2026, Resolution 2026-0308, Kona Ice Mobile Food Vendor Agreement and License, and Resolution 2026-0312, approving an engagement letter for Land Use Council.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll now move on to open forum. This is for business not on the agenda. If you'd like to address the board, you can approach the podium there and have 3 minutes of time. I'll see if anybody in the room wants to first. And then anybody online? Okay, great.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, hi, it's Clark Lipscomb. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Hey, I just wanted to bring up an idea. I'm sorry that I couldn't attend the workshop earlier on Fraser going home rule. I really think that if you want to go that route, the most expeditious and probably best for the whole community is to simply annex to Winter Park that we investigated, many years ago and nearly got done many years ago. It's best for the taxpayers. It's best for the towns. We've already got a building department that's combined. We've got a police department that's combined. I don't know why we wouldn't be investigating that before we're spending a whole lot of money on researching how to be home rule and how to change that, et cetera, when it is simply what we did in Leland Creek, where we de-annexed property and annexed it to Winter Park. Winter Park, of course, would have to be on board, but they would get the transfer tax much the same as they did in Leland Creek, which you guys can't do, no matter what you are. So that's one reason they have a lot of funds and you guys don't. So I really think you should strongly consider opening that dialogue again. And I think today, if you put it to the vote of Fraser, it would get approved. So please consider that. And let's, consider that before we go spending a bunch of money unnecessarily going home rule. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks for your comments. Definitely something to think about. Anybody else? Okay. We'll move on to discussion and possible action regarding treasurer's report. Lori. How's it going, Lori?
It's going okay.
Yeah,
How are you guys?
doing all right.
I don't know any clean jokes. I could start with some.
Go.
Okay, I think we're good to go. Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. Lori Waters, Finance Director. Here we go with our Treasurer's Report. The GF reserves and operating position. We kind of held steady from from the prior month, from the 1st of February, because we did receive all of the grant reimbursements, which was a pretty sizable amount, over $1 million. So that kind of held us level. We are anticipating the bond funds around April 21st. So there's the separation of the balances. I took out a confusing column there. Those are the balances as of March 1st. And so if you have any question about those, the one that's obviously the general fund is constantly changing. That's basically our cash fund. But like I said, it held almost similar to last month. Oh, I forgot. We have begun the hiring process for a town planner. The job application, the requirements have been submitted and uploaded to the town website and to hiring apps, Indeed, and ones like that. That goes out automatically when we open it up in our accounting, the payroll program. And we do wish Garrett well, although we still don't want him to leave. But anyway, so that has begun. Here's bad news. Sales tax revenue, January sales tax revenue. You could see on the graph, see that lonely little black dot down there? That's what happened in January, and I'm sorry, I did warn that I was worried about it last month, and I really hate being right. The January sales tax total was $531,769, and that is 22.5% lower than January 2025. So that was kind of disappointing, but it's also, we don't have the snow. And I do believe we're going to see trends of people pulling back. I just was earlier looking on my phone. The price of a barrel of oil is now at 107. So that means gas prices are rocketing. A lot of prices are going to go along with that. I'm kind of hoping that because of our proximity to Denver, maybe by the summer when everybody wants to start biking and, having some fun, they may not be traveling as far, but hopefully they'll be maybe coming to see us just to have a nice weekend or have something to do. Kind of like the COVID when that started breaking open and everything started getting a lot better. Short-term rentals, the STR, that was still about 18% of total revenue, but it too, you can see the little guy at March 1st was lower. It was about a 12.25% decrease compared to 2025. So yeah, we're not, it was just slightly higher than January of last year, but lower than the year before. Remote sellers, again, we're still at about 4% of overall revenue. And it was about $10,310 lower than January 2024. Because we are just, I think people are just really going to start budgeting harder and not doing as much. The budget expenditure analysis, we're not really over budget anywhere. We have the Fraser Housing Authority down at the bottom is the expenditures that we have put out that are going to be reimbursed by the bonds for the loans that we've made to the Fraser Housing Authority. So that's going to be a new big addition for everybody to see the amounts in there. I'm still doing some reconciliations of that, that might rise a little bit more. Everything else is on track for not being any big surprises at the moment. Any questions?
Lori, you have capital asset fund in that first slide, whatever, the second slide. It's a negative number of almost 2.5 million.
Capital asset is always negative, because that is the offset. That's all of the assets that the town owns. And that one is always negative. Auditor said it's negative because it's a credit amount. It's not really a cash balance in there. It is tracking the assets of the town ownership, and that one always comes up negative.
I mean, what's in that?
The property, all the property you own, the wells. Oh no, that's in water. The property, the streets, all the equipment out in the public works, the existing equipment that's in there. We just bought 360 Railroad, the property on Eisenhower, both of those, the Planet Pause on it.
Earth.
Yeah. Those properties, it's also any of the land the town owns. And nope, streets is in public works. So no, that is all of the assets owned by the town.
Okay. On the last slide, though, you have a budget of 12 million, an actual of 880,000. Do those line up? That's a little confusing to me.
Well, that's what we budgeted.
So, yeah, capital
Yeah.
assets are things that we budgeted to purchase this year.
Right.
Whereas the other slide shows the funding balance, which has to provide, I guess, the value
Yeah.
depreciated, I guess, our asset.
Depreciation.
Includes this building as well.
Yeah,
right?
this building, the church, the parks.
So is the 880, is that the vet clinic,
What's that? Yeah, that's,
right? Okay.
So
That's
what else
the
are we buying for almost 11 million this year?
Public Works.
Public Works.
Yeah, new public works facilities. I mean, it's all called out in the budget message.
Okay. So those don't really line up.
No, not with these two slides. We're kind of showing different things.
Well, yeah, the purpose was of this slide was basically just to show the percentage change from month to month, so that you could see that we're not going, no red flags are cropping up that we are going way over budget at any one time.
So we're going to continue to see this trend of decreased revenue these winter months throughout,
Yes.
right? I mean, I would imagine so, right? So
I'm-
we make sure we're not spending too much this year. When are we going to start talking about cutting back on some things we were planning to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think we want to see what the next couple months look like. Our project season is typically in the summer.
Mhm.
So, I think you'll be able to see what the budget,
Like in
what our
May?
revenues are looking like in May, June. And if we need to pull back on some projects.
Okay.
Yeah. But the main thing that I've mentioned before is that, when we get the bond funds, the town will no longer be using its cash sources to build St. Louis Landing. And that's going to enable the cash to begin to recover, because I won't be paying MAD all of the expenditures for the construction at St. Louis Landing. We'll be using the bond funds, which also, we'll also be planning ahead for, when the payments are coming due on the bonds and principals. And then when we get the public works COPs, that's also going to help, as far as there won't be any big cash outlays, like we've seen
Mhm.
recently.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Lori? Thanks, Lori. All right. Moving on to Grant County Emergency Notification System rave announcement. Alexis.
Hey. So I am Alexis Kimbrough and I am the Director of Emergency Management for Grand County. I am here today just to provide you guys with an update on what we are doing. And I don't know if many of you know, but in November, we did experience, well, we did not, Code Red experienced a cybersecurity attack on their system, which immediately resulted in them shutting down the system. And our team basically taking a step back and saying, if this system is not secure, we shouldn't be contracting with that company.
What does Code Red do for us?
Awesome question. So Code Red is our emergency alert and warning system. Anytime we have a disaster or anything, anytime someone needs to receive an alert for any sort of evacuation, wildfire, flood, etc., it will come through the Code Red system. Well, it used to come through the Code Red system, and now it will be coming through a new system called Rave. However, instead of going with that company's branding, we're actually going to rebrand the whole system, and we're going to call it Grand County Alerts. So what we're really excited to share is that it will be open for public registration on April 2nd. And yeah, I will go into more about that, but I just wanted to stop and see if anybody had any questions regarding the cybersecurity attack or the previous system and the transition before I go into the cool new features that we will be receiving. All right. So I do want to mention that we will be starting from scratch. So when I say that, anybody who has signed up for Code Red, we will not be transferring that data over. So we are asking everyone to please register. We had a big boost in registrations right after the Windy Gap fire. And so we anticipate a lot of people saying, I've already signed up for this system. Why do I need to do it again? And so we're really pushing the fact that that data was compromised. We are not going to use it. We do not want to use it. And we're just asking everyone to go in, sign up again. And the new registration, you'll receive texts and confirmations depending on what kind of contact information you put in. So you will know if you are signed up.
So do you have to sign up for it? Like Amber Alert and stuff, it sends it out to every cell phone in that area. Does that still occur? I mean, do you send it out to everyone? Or do you have to sign up for that?
So they are two separate channels. That's actually a really great question. So how emergency alerts work is that you have kind of an opt-in side of alerts, and then you have an opt-out side of alerts. So when you mentioned iPause, that is considered an opt-out service. So everyone in this room is already signed up and opted in to iPause. So it is automatic. You have to physically go into your phone and turn those settings off if you do not wish to receive them, which I ask nobody in this room to do ever. Or listening all around the world. They're very important, but there are settings in your phone which you can turn them off. And that is a system that we have access to through the third-party vendors that I'm here talking about today, that we have to transition to so that we can send up emergency alerts. When we ask people to sign up for alerts, that is kind of the opt-in side. And that is what we're going to be calling Grand County Alerts, which provides people with an additional channel to receive information and an additional method of dissemination for public safety and response agencies, which is just important to do. Redundancy is great, regardless of what you're doing, just making sure you have plans for continuity. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. I can really nerd out about this. I have to watch how deep I go into some details.
I don't know how to turn it off on your phone. But anyway, it's not your responsibility to explain that. Go ahead.
Are you going to have a campaign for the signups, and is there a role Fraser can play?
So what we're really asking is to just push this out in every method possible. On the day of April 2nd, we're going to be sending out PIO kits basically that will provide social media posts, approved messaging, etc. That we just ask you just push it out to anybody and everybody. If you have events, I'm happy to come bring my iPad and register people. We're going to have tons of different ways for people to get registered. I hope that you guys remember how Code Red was. It was very bulky. It was very cumbersome, not intuitive system. And this system is very simple, very easy, and provides multiple ways for even second homeowners to just send a keyword to a text message and register. So it's really cool. I'm super excited. Another thing that we do want to be kind of pushing out as well is that outside of the registration process, we have this, we're calling it a safety profile. So it's basically just any community member's profile in the system, but the profile allows for people to add additional information such as medical devices that they have, if they think that they're going to need additional help evacuating, pets, livestock, if they own or rent the property, if they have a place to evacuate to, just a whole plethora of additional things that they can add in that really helps us on the planning side. And so we're also kind of pushing that because yes, we want people registered, but this additional information is also super helpful. And just pushing out kind of that additional step of register, but then take maybe 10 to 15 minutes to fill out all this stuff too. Anybody have any other questions?
I do. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
So, I mean, we obviously have a lot of visitors here.
Mhm.
Like, how do you inform those people that they need to evacuate when they're here for a week or a weekend?
Yeah, so that kind of goes back to that iPause conversation.
Okay.
So we really use iPause a lot more than I think people kind of realize because it tackles those people who don't necessarily register or sign up.
But you can tell that they're physically here. So you get a notification through both systems that you need to evacuate? Is that what?
Yes, so those people who are full-time residents, they will receive an iPause alert, which will come through as an amber, like
Mhm.
that amber alert, but then they could also receive like a text message and email. So think of it this way, if we have like a life-saving, like this is life-threatening, people need to move now, we're going to send out a message across the board, any way you could think of. If there's some sort of road closure or something that's going to impede someone's ability to do their day-to-day things and we need to inform
Mhm.
people, then we're probably going to not do like a full iPause, but maybe do that Grand County Alert side. So we're asking everyone to sign up
Mhm.
regardless. But for those who we know probably will never sign up, we have other ways.
Okay, thank you.
Does that
Mhm.
answer your question?
What is that? What's the acronym you're using? The iPod?
iPause, it's Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, and it is by FEMA. It's a national system.
Questions? Sorry.
More pertaining to the hack, and maybe Code Red is the one that answer this stuff, but I'm curious that they probably stole our data, and so is that being cleaned up, or is that, and the second part of it, I'm wondering, can the hackers put out a false call? Can we get, if they have the whole database of our county, could they put out a false call saying there's a fire or something like that?
These are really good questions. So, one, there wasn't a lot of information publicized from what occurred. What we did find out is that it was just data. So to answer that second question, no, they could not send out any sort of false alert or anything of that nature. So there's no worry there. The data itself was it was just compromised and taken. So what we're suggesting is it was sold by a party to just make money. So what we're doing on our end to just kind of make sure that people are protected is if you use the same password for Code Red as any of your personal accounts or any account at all, change your password. And that's just something everybody should do every 3 months regardless. But outside of that, we didn't own any of the data from Code Red. It was all theirs, which was another problem I had with the system to begin with, because like I couldn't go in and actually help people in the community with their profiles, etc., because we had zero access to that data anyway. So we like our everything was pretty protected from what happened, but we're just not going to continue being involved in a company that is not going to be secure in things that are very important. So
So we will be the proprietor, or we meaning you, will be the proprietors of our data moving forward. And then what are we doing to protect that this doesn't happen again, just under a different operating system?
I do not feel confident enough to answer all your questions right now.
Okay.
Just because I have not really had those really in-depth discussions with our IT department. He's overseen a lot of that. And so I don't want to tell you something incorrect right here, but I will definitely get back with you on just everything that we are doing in order to protect the information that's going in.
Yeah, thank you.
But it sounds like Raid's been shut down, or Code Red's been shut down, so they can't send any notifications out, correct?
They're back up and going. They don't have full alerting authority. Actually, the date 18th. So they did just receive authority to send alerts again from FEMA, but as of Grand County, Colorado, we are no longer sending out notifications through the Code Red system.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks so much for coming to present to us.
And I will get back to you definitely on that information on the privacy stuff.
Sounds good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. Resolution 2026-0310, approving Grand Foundation Winter Park Film Festival Memorandum of Understanding. Sarah to present.
Hello. Sarah, excuse
Yes.
me, I'd like to recuse myself since I'm on the advisory committee. So just a heads up.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. Hello, Mayor, Board of Trustees, Sarah Catanzarite, Assistant Town Manager for the Town of Fraser. And you have in front of you this evening Resolution 2026-0310, which would approve a memorandum of understanding with the Grand Foundation specific to the Winter Park Film Festival. So back in the budget season, the fall of 2025, the board did approve $20,000 towards a sponsorship of the Winter Park Film Festival for the 2026 budget. As part of that sponsorship, a couple different stipulations were discussed, including the Winter Park Film Festival achieving nonprofit status before they receive the funds, and submitting a completed financial report to the Grand Foundation for the 2025 donor advised funds that they received last year. So Megan Ledeen is here with us tonight. She has confirmed that the Winter Park Film Festival has provided that documentation to close out last year's grant. She's also shared that just in terms of a timeline for achieving 501c3 status, that it is not realistic that they will have that sometime this year when they would need the funds for the festival. As such, the Grand Foundation has offered to serve as a fiscal sponsor for the Winter Park Film Festival. So this MOU is actually written as an agreement with the Grand Foundation versus directly with the festival itself, but is specific to the festival and activities of the festival. Other items in the MOU do speak to reporting requirements. as well as marketing and branding requirements that were discussed to make sure that they're using the Town of Fraser logo and that they are putting a minimum of $5,000 of that budget towards marketing, including paper posters around town. The agreement is also written in section 5 such that there's 2 options for the board. So I would like your direction on this. It does provide the option to provide the money up front at the board's discretion, and then the Grand Foundation would be responsible for reporting back to us on how that money is spent. Again, from the Winter Park Film Festival, but through the Grand Foundation, or the money can be provided as a reimbursement once the funding is spent and the reporting is provided. I know we have some members of the Winter Park Film Festival team, so we can let them speak if the board would like. I believe their preference would be to have those funds on the front end if that is something the board is comfortable with. But this MOU is written such that it is at the discretion of the board which way you would like to proceed. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, if you'd like to hear from Megan Ledeen or the film festival folks, we can let them speak.
Go ahead, guys, if you want to speak.
Parks Thompson with the Winter Park Film Festival.
And David Miller. We're not calling ourselves a board anymore. It's a advisory committee until we become an official IRS approved board.
First, we'd like to thank you for all of your cooperation in the past, and we would like to thank our fiscal sponsor, the Grant Foundation, for allowing this all to be possible. As far as money up front, I think that would be our preference just because there's so much stuff on the front end of the festival due to, especially for marketing. And as you guys have seen, the numbers here have dropped. So supporting marketing efforts for off-season events is probably a good option for the Fraser Valley, and we would like to help assist with that if you'll let us. And I don't think there's a lot for us to say, except for we just really appreciate you guys considering and being a part of this for years to come. Megan, is there anything that we need to say on your behalf that you would like to say? It's probably the most important thing.
Good evening, Megan Ledeen, Executive Director of the Grant Foundation. Whichever direction you go, we're going to make sure, since we're signing this, that we're following this to the letter of the law, inclusive of logos and things to that nature. So no bills would be paid if you decide to upfront the money from us without that being in accordance to what we're signing. So please know whatever direction you go. And then also there is some cash flow that has been from previous years. But as you know, or do not know, they have hired somebody administratively, and I applaud them heavily for that, because that's going to take a lot of the cash flow that currently exists from previous years. So I just want to make sure you know that. So whatever direction you guys go, we'll do that. And then I can concur, as Sarah alluded to, for number 4, section B, that they have turned in the final report for both Town of Winter Park and Town of Fraser, per your request. And then also, just so I put a little clarity, traditionally since 2009, it probably takes about 6 months with an attorney to get a 501c3 designation. And while they've done a lot of the legwork, they're in the process of filling out the 1023 form to turn that into the IRS. There are just a lot of steps that go along with that. So with that being said, even if they did get it prior to September 11th,
Yes.
am I correct on that date? It still would be kind of cattywampus, right? Because we'll be taking in money and paying out bills. So to have a hodgepodge of financials for 1 year really wouldn't work. So it would be more conducive just for us to be the fiscal sponsor for this year's event. And so that's another reason we're kind of going down that path. But it is possible they could get it ahead of time. I just want to make sure you guys know that.
So Megan, how does it work? Do they submit invoices to you for what they've spent? I mean, do you ever see the disbursement of the funds and they submit an invoice and then you reimburse them based on whether or not it's appropriate.
Well, so really good question. So one of the things we require as a fiscal sponsor, if we're going to be the fiscal sponsors, they have to set up a budget. And so they have prepared a budget with line items accordingly to marketing, advertising, things to that nature. So I think one of the number one things that the crew will do is they'll send us an email saying, hey, we're going to be going out and purchasing 5,000 posters. It's X number of dollars. I look to make sure it's in accordance with the budget. If it's over, then I would question that. Secondly, I'd look to make sure your requirements for branding are inclusive of that. And if it fits within the guidelines, then they produced an invoice to me. We subtract sales tax, we pay the bill out, and then we put it in the financials. Our accounting software does have Winter Park Film Festival not commingled with our other funds. So we have expenses and revenues to show that. So financials are super easy to produce.
Okay. And my other question was, how much are the other municipalities contributing? I guess Winter Park and then the resort, are they also?
I'm gonna defer, and the only reason
like to
is they
know-
didn't, so historically, the Winter Park Film Festival via our fiscal sponsor would go through a grant process. And this last year they did not. So I'm gonna let them kind of speak to that.
I don't know if Connor would like to answer that question or if you'd like me to answer it.
Yeah, I can answer it. Can you guys hear me?
Cool.
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, board. Thank you for your time today. We are in the process of working with the Special Events Committee, which oversees the funds for the town of Winter Park. And we are hoping to see $25,000 from them, but they have not voted on that. For the Winter Park Ski Resort, we get in-kind donations. They offer up Sunspot Mountain Lodge for our award ceremony. They run the gondola for the entire event. They house our judges, our special guests, etc., which comes out to, I believe, roughly, Megan might know the number, $19,000 or $20,000. So both are chipping in about the same amount.
Okay. And any other sources of revenue?
So let me first. Yes, my name again is David Miller, and you may recall in the presentation that we did when we first met and presented our request that we have expanded our outreach program to include high net worth individuals, town community businesses, larger foundations, as well as the bigger organizations, one of which we've already talked about. And I just want to expand on that to make another point, not to take up too much of your time, to say we are not unaware of the economic headwinds that we face from receiving donations from those folks. So a lot of the money, and this is a question that Megan properly brought up, and the answer was, if our projections of the outreach funds that we hope to get as donations do not come through to the extent we have, the majority of our marketing dollars are to be expended in the August period just prior to the event. So we will not be spending anything that we do not receive. And so we'll be monitoring that. So it's a much broader community effort. And I might add one other thing to the treasurer's comments earlier about this Fraser tax base and hopefully receiving increased revenues in the post-summer period. Way we have set this up strategically is not just to be a presentation of films and a cultural event, but to combine our activities with the needs and the wants and the desires of the retail community. And so they hopefully will see the benefit of giving a contribution, because hopefully they will receive increased business traffic and revenue and profits, which in turn would then contribute to the base of taxation. Long-winded answer, but I hope it provides some input.
I'm sorry, what are the dates again for this year?
September 11th through the 14th. Am I right, Connor?
10th.
10th.
Also, we do have a number of private donations already that are above 5,000. And then we also have some construction companies locally. Chilcoots is putting in 2,500. And I know that other construction companies are being outreach to. So I have a feeling
We're
that we'll be close to what we want.
and we right now Altera is making a decision on what amount they will sponsor us, as well as the Colorado Office of Film and Television.
And the individual that we hired, one of her sole jobs is to outreach to large companies. So we are in communications with companies like Yeti and Rab and a number of other outdoor research companies. So I think that's great for the Fraser Valley to have those coming this way. And they will be involved in some fashion. Hopefully, this will be right.
Thank you.
Any other questions we might answer while we're here? Then
Thanks,
let me
guys.
just say thank you to the entire board for the town council for the approval of this mount, and also add my personal and the advisory committee's thanks to Megan, who made getting over a few bumps in the road easy or easier. And so we're all now in accord moving forward. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
So we have a resolution in the board packet. Checking to see if it doesn't specify if we give the money up front or if we do it over time, right?
It does not. So if you can, if the board is prepared to make a decision, we can just note that in the minutes. And
Well, I think Megan outlined the process. They have to submit an invoice and she has to determine that it's a appropriate expenditure before the money's given out, right? We just don't give them a lump sum and have no way to monitor
It
how
would
it's.
go to the Grand Foundation.
They're a conservator, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
They'll go to the Grand Foundation and okay.
So in that respect, I'm very comfortable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2026-0309. Oops, that's the wrong one.
I was like,
0310, approving Grand Foundation Winter Park Film Festival memorandum of understanding.
With money up front.
Yeah.
They were saying.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thanks, guys. Absolutely. We look forward to it.
yeah, should be great.
All right, 2026-0311, approving an extension to the duration of approval for the Ascent Final Plat and Major Site Plan. Garrett to present.
Thank you, Mayor and Trustees. Garrett Scott, Town Planner. Just give me a moment to get my presentation going. So the item before you this evening is a request to extend the duration of approval for the major site plan and final plat for the Ascent condominiums development. This presentation is pretty brief and mirrors the staff report, but just diving into it. The Ascent condos, it's a 27 unit for sale multifamily residential development to be located adjacent to and within the current exports building, converting that existing commercial space to wholly residential uses. The Board of Trustees approved these land use applications, the final plat and major site plan, approximately a year ago on April 2nd, 2025. These approvals are valid for 1 year. And because the plat has not been recorded and because building permits have not been issued for the development, both of these approvals would otherwise expire in approximately 2 weeks, April 2nd of this year. However, on March 3rd, the applicant did request a 6-month extension to this approval period. And staff has brought forward that request to you all. The reason being is because this section of the code cited here allows the granting authority to grant a single extension to these durations of approval. You all, the Board of Trustees, were the granting authority for the final plat and major site plan. And this extension can be up to a period that does not exceed the amount of the initial approval's duration. So because this development has not received any previous extensions, and because 6 months does not exceed the original 1-year duration of approval, the extension, it is possible for this extension to be approved by the board. Ultimately, in staff's opinion and evaluation of this request, staff believes that this extension is primarily necessary because there is a approximately 9-month gap in between submittals by the applicant. Last year, from April to about December, there was a pause in submittals and staff review and referral reviews of those documents. However, the applicant did continue to work on their plans during that time, had some correspondence with town staff, and certainly since December of last year, they have made an effort to address all pending referral review comments and try to finalize their approvals. I'll also note that there is active construction work underway to install water and sewer mains as part of the Elk Creek Condos 4W1 development, which is closely adjacent to this site, and this infrastructure would also serve this development. So even though it's infrastructure work for a separate project, it is in a way related to this, and this development would utilize that infrastructure that's being installed right now. So for all those reasons, staff recommends that the extension be granted by the board. I did also want to touch on the other potential option that is on the table, which is to allow these approvals to expire and what that would look like. If the board chooses that option, then the applicant would simply need to submit their application materials as if it was a completely new application and gain these approvals again. So effectively what that looks like is paying application fees for the site plan and final plat, and scheduling a public hearing with the planning commission and then subsequent final approval by the board at a future board meeting. But because there hasn't been any significant changes to our zoning regulations that would affect this development proposal and staff's evaluation of it prior to all previous reviews, going through this, new approval process and public hearing is frankly kind of viewed as more of a formality. So this is why staff is recommending the extension, but with the condition to pay those application fees. This essentially imposes a relatively modest penalty on the applicant for not finalizing their plans within that original 1-year period, while also not creating additional administrative burdens, such as scheduling and noticing a public hearing, which would fall on both the applicant and town staff.
Are we allowed to do that? To collect the fee like that? I mean, with an extension?
Staff,
That's within the code?
yes,
Okay.
staff believes that is within our authority in the code, especially given that the alternative is,
More cumbersome?
well, that the alternative is requiring those fees that be paid. I think staff is presenting payment of fees as an option to the board. It does not need to be imposed, but staff is simply making that recommendation at this
Okay.
time.
Thank you.
Is there any historical precedent for that?
I would say yes, with in a similar way, the building permit extension for the Market Street buildings that came before the board last October contemplated imposing building permit application fees. The board at that time chose not to impose those fees and instead elected to require the payment of use tax, which was originally waived. So in a similar way, These are not building permits, these are land use applications, but I think it's very analogous. I will also note that there have been previous extensions granted to this same developer where fees have not been imposed. One that I can think of is the Meadows at Grand Park. This is Hay Meadow Drive, adjacent to Highway 40. That was approved as a phased final plat, which has a 5-year duration of approval. The third and final phase of that plat was not recorded within that 5-year timeframe. The applicant requested an extension, and that was granted without any conditions or payment of fees. I will note that, in that situation, that development was largely built out. Really what that plat covered were the final lots for the last 3 fourplex townhome buildings. But that development, all the infrastructure had been installed, the street was open and paved, and certainly other residences in that area had already been finished and occupied. So I think it was a bit of a different situation in that maybe it's just a bit more of a timing issue and not, say, untimeliness on the applicant's end and finalizing their approvals and getting their documents recorded.
What is the ballpark on these fees?
Sure. So for the site plan and final plat, it's a little bit less than $3,000. The staff report also mentions that with this application, there was a appeal approved by the Board of Adjustment, and that ruling comes with a I guess the appeal request, I should say, comes with a fee of $700. Because that's a separate approval from this body, that will go to the Board of Adjustment next week. So in total, between this extension and the appeal extension, it's slightly less than $4,000.
And how much staff time does this take?
Adam, could you,
I'm sorry, how much staff time does this take?
As far as
Just processing, because I've always thought that's what fees are supposed to cover.
Sure. As far as processing the extension itself, it is fairly minimal. Staff time to write the staff report, prepare and give this presentation really are the main things. So in a way, it probably could be argued that that amount of fees is potentially in excess of, staff's time to do those tasks. I believe that imposing these fees now, in a way, is not just meant to cover that time to do the administrative work of evaluating and presenting this extension request, but also, frankly, to impose what I believe to be a fairly modest penalty onto the developer for not completing their plans in a timely manner. So it's kind of meant to serve 2 purposes.
Appreciate the answer and the analysis.
Sure.
so if it expired with the variance that was granted, would that expire also?
If correct, yes, but that variance was granted by the Board of Adjustment. We have a planning commission next week on March 25th, which is prior to the April 2nd expiration date. Regardless of the Board of Trustees' decision today, staff will be bringing that to the Board of Adjustment next week and recommending essentially the same action, that an extension be granted with the condition of that $700 fee being paid.
Okay, well, I guess it's not a question for you, I guess, but why, what's the cause of the delay and it not being recorded and building permits being issued? Is
Yeah,
that a Layla question? Just wondering.
Yeah, I know Layla is online, so she can
So,
certainly
I mean,
speak.
once they record it, then they have to start paying a higher property tax, which is revenue we're losing, right? For 6 months. Isn't that right?
You can make that argument. I would say in this specific case, the exports building is already on a platted lot, and so it has, property taxes assessed at a commercial property tax rate, and will continue to do so. The other property in question, and I'll kind of just advance the slide here to get our bearings. This plat would create a second lot for the new condo building directly to the east of
Right.
the existing exports building, which is this one I'm highlighting now. And this new lot to the right is, from my recollection, partially coming from the existing exports building lot and partially coming from a portion of Meyer Lot 2. Meyer Lot 2 is vacant land, and it does have, if I'm not mistaken, an agricultural exemption. So its assessed value and property taxes are relatively low. And if this was platted within this 1 year period, I forget how the exact timing of, when property taxes get assessed for newly platted developments, but certainly it could be argued that if this plat was recorded, say, last year in 2025, there would be 2026 property taxes due for this new residential lot that got created. I think that's
Right.
a fair argument. But I think that amount is somewhat small in this case.
So it justifies the fees, I think.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Do you guys want to hear from the applicant, or are you ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion if I can find it.
First one there, under E, under the original E.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-0311, approving an extension of duration of approval for the Ascent final plat and major site plan.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Any opposed?
Peggy did.
Peggy was the second.
second.
Quiet second. Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks, Garrett.
Thank you.
All right, now we're gonna jump back. I apologize, I was supposed to do this before this last one, but resolution 2026-0309, approving professional services proposal with Magellan Strategies, Sarah C. and Magellan Strategies, David Flaherty.
Hello, thank you, Mayor, Board of Trustees, Sarah Catanzarite, Assistant Town Manager for the Town of Fraser. You have in front of you this evening resolution number 2026-0309, which would approve a professional services proposal from Magellan Strategies to conduct voter opinion research related to a potential Home Rule Charter Commission ballot measure and help with community education effort. So they would conduct 150 to 200 interviews on a home rule survey. It would be a bilingual survey. I will let David introduce himself and kind of talk through the proposal. But just for context, I know it was touched upon in our workshop earlier today, but this would meant to be part of kind of the exploration process as the town desires to better understand community awareness, knowledge, and perspectives regarding statutory versus home rule form of government and the potential establishment of a home rule charter commission so that the board and the town can be better informed in making that decision to move forward with the home rule charter commission ballot measure, as well as to help educate the public on what that means and what they would actually be voting for. David?
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, council and everybody for accommodating. I got kind of doubled up tonight. I was also presenting to the Deer Mountain Fire District. Is it okay if I share the proposal and just sort of walk through that? Is that all right? Okay, I'll do
That'd be
that.
great.
Yep. Can you all see this okay?
Yes.
Okay. We're a public opinion research firm, and we also have a lot of knowledge regarding ballot language, ballot measure campaigns, and helping public entities, evaluate support and opposition levels. But in addition to that, telling your story. And we've done 6, 7 home rule project in our 20-year history. And, basically what the survey really is used for most of the time is will educate your community on, this ambiguous concept of what is home rule versus statutory rule. And what our survey does and what we usually go about doing is just sort of measuring awareness first and foremost among your community of how aware are you that a change in governance is being considered. That way we know just first off from the proposal or from the survey, excuse me, how many people perhaps are somewhat of, aware of this process or not. But then, and just so you know, too, we did help establish the Fraser River Valley Housing, partnership and so forth, not to digress. But the way we, invite and grab attention of your residents to participate in this survey, which is also a great education tool to use, is by sending MMS texts that look like this. We don't do phone surveys. They're costly. People do not use their, answer their phones at, response rates are very low. But the way we do that is it's no different. It's just a much better way of grabbing somebody's attention and saying, hey, your local government would really like to know your opinion by sending them a text like this rather than me trying to reach them through, even a caller ID and so forth. And from that survey, this is just a mock-up of perhaps what your text would look like from the town of Fraser. It's nice, it's inviting, it's trustworthy. It lowers concerns around privacy as well as spamming and so forth. And granted, there are other best practices of letting people know ahead of time that you will be conducting a survey. But from that survey is a very sort of tried and true method where we ask about whether or not you have an opinion of home rule, how familiar you are with it, just to really evaluate where, because sometimes home rule may have been attempted years ago in a community and it just did not pass or did not go well for a number of reasons. It happens. They don't all get done on the first approach, but our surveys allow us to serve up images and other information such as this. It's just a much better experience for residents to experience as they kind of learn, all right, what are you guys talking about? How is this going to benefit us? Why you even consider this? And I hope from our ballot or from our proposal here that if you click on any of these links or scan, you can see some of the home rule surveys that we've done in the past to get an idea of how the survey is set up and the questions that are asked. But most importantly, the information that we share with folks, because you start out with like an uninformed ballot measure, just, hey, would you vote yes for home rule or not? But then say, okay, now we're going to educate you about what it is and perhaps what it is not. And we walk them through information and telling them here's what the benefits are and what the drawbacks may be, such as, going through a home rule charter and so forth. But like Tabor will still be in effect and just helping people understand how it gives the community an opportunity to really determine what kind of local government they want to have and all those sorts of things. And here's just some of them that we've done, like in Erie 2022, Monument 21. We just actually finished Wellington literally last week. I would include that, but we were still in the field. And then just some other things, after it's all said and done, when the survey's completed, we're going to obviously report results. And the bottom line is, though, one of the benefits of investing in the survey is more people in your community are going to be aware of it and educated about what it is and it is not. And then moving forward from there about, people that want to serve on the commission and so forth. So, you are a small community. We actually last November finished Winter Park's community survey down the road and so forth. So we have done work, in the Fraser Valley. Um, but it's a small community, and we would literally use an all above approach in addition to the texting of really encouraging people to please take this survey through multiple means, whether you have an email list that we do not have to touch, we would we would provide you with a survey link and hope they take it. We would want this survey perhaps posted on Fraser's Town website, saying, hey, this is home rule. Learn about what it is. Please take the survey. In addition to us, typically we have 50 to 70% of a community's cell phone numbers to send these invitations. And so typically this process takes about 30 days from start to finish. Usually what takes the most time is the questionnaire design phase. And everybody signing off and being comfortable with the information you're going to want to share with the community. And, just on top of that, it's like, how accurate are these surveys, even with smaller communities? This is our track record from doing ballot measures, over the last couple of years. So as you can see, look, we're not going to get it right every single time. But at the end of the day, we just want you to know that we do a lot of this kind of work. And also in there is an example of what the deliverables will look like. And, I hope we exceed 200 interviews and get a surprise to the upside. That does happen sometimes. But just to give you a sense, Winter Park down the street with 900 registered voters, we were able to complete, I think, 250 for a very extensive community survey. So I just want to manage your expectations. Before Keith moved on down there, their town manager, and AJ, you know what I mean? They're a great team, but they did a really good job. But we also interviewed some people outside of the boundaries of Winter Park, second homeowners. So anyway, I will stop there. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And I hope I wasn't too ambiguous about what a home rule survey is, because it's obviously not something that you're doing very often, but very well may be familiar with, because of the advantages for the town.
Yeah, I had a question, Louis. So you send this out to every registered voter?
We do not send it to every registered voter, like it's not a mail survey, and we don't have every registered voter's cell phone numbers. What happens is the Grand County voter file has phone numbers on it. Typically, about 40 to 50% of a community's cell phones numbers. We also have a partner out of Nebraska that I've worked with for 30 years that we will send them the address and the name of the people, and they'll append, anywhere from, another 10 or 20% before we go into the field. So our coverage, or the people that we would invite, we hope to be around 70%. It may be mid to low 60s. So that is just how we invite them to participate in the survey. In addition, though, we can do some postcards. We always want a paper version at the town hall, just for folks that, don't trust. Like, a good survey gives people multiple opportunities to participate. So I hope that answers your question. We're not going to have everybody's cell phone number, and not
Right.
everybody's going to respond. Yes.
In terms of, at least my experience with sending out surveys, the response rate, if you get 20 or 25% response rate, that's pretty damn good.
Honestly,
250, you're hoping to get 250 responses, right?
yes, that's what we're forecasting. And in all honesty, sir, that's unheard of hitting a 25% response rate in a general public type of survey.
What would you expect?
15%, 10 to 15 typically. A phone survey is going to be less than 1%, depending on the data collection method. But as we've evolved this way in this data collection method, we get close to that 15% because people know it's a survey that's relevant to them, rather than somebody's trying to call me and ask a question about, who's running for governor or something like that. So 25% is that did happen back in the 60s and 70s, when there was more participation and so forth. But today, this kind of survey, a ballot measure survey, when people know it's coming from the fire district, the school district, your local government, people weigh in more because it matters to them, rather than a survey with another goal or objective, especially the kind of political horse race stuff.
Yeah, I thought we had about 1,500 registered voters, but in terms of election turnout, it's more like 800.
Well, it's in
under
the
1,000 registered voters.
Under 1,000?
Just under 1,000.
Yeah. And I have that on page 9 of the proposal, sir. So,
I see it.
yep. In those prior years of what turnout looked like in those election cycles. So, um, just so you know, because more people will turn out in presidential years than in odd years. However, um, in Donald Trump's first term in 2018, you had near presidential turnout in his midterm election. And we anticipate that to be very similar in 2026. Um, but something like home rule that, is a big deal. And those that are in the know and those are occasionally not, we can expect a little bit of a bump. But we're forecasting turnout to be somewhere between what you see in 2022 and what you see in 2024. So, we're looking at 500 to maybe 700 people turning out to vote. It could be higher because remember, we do have a Senate race, we have a governor's race, there's reasons for people to show up in addition to just the national uh, narrative.
I'm just always amazed in Colorado that the turnout is so low, given the fact that it's so easy to vote. You don't have to go down to a polling station and wait in line, and all you have to do is return the envelope. It's amazing that only turned out 60% or something crazy.
What was the last two election turnout, actual submitted votes? Do you remember, Antonella? 300, I think, something for the last one.
Yeah, well, again, it's on page 9, folks, from the November election. So 356 people, give or take, voted. And I say a handful may be off just because we always freeze and save the voter file in December after every election year so that when we run a demographic report like this on page 9, because over time people are going to move away or pass away. And so that's why, what's really, it just helps to see what turnout's been in the past for a small community. So like Fraser.
I tend to think people are either prone to answer surveys or prone to delete immediately. With multiple modes of contact, how do you, I guess, strategize against duplicates or those
Sure.
might answer 3 different times?
Yep.
Yeah, because I can see that.
Yep, that's
just
on
have
page
personalities.
8. And just so you know, every cell phone number that we invite somebody to participate to, there's a code tied to it on the back end. So if somebody starts passing it around, you know what I mean, or trying to influence the vote, we're going to see, that code in there 5 times. And we will discard 4 of the 5, and we will only keep the first one that came in.
Perfect.
In addition to that, if you're on a Chrome browser in your home or on your phone and you take it at that IP address and you complete this survey, you should not be able to take it again. However, you can run down to Starbucks and under a different IP address, you may be able to take it again. So unfortunately, it's not totally foolproof, but the unique code is really helpful for us to catch that when it's passed around. But you should also keep in mind if we do post, a button, if you will, or a page on your website and try to push people to like go to the website, because sometimes we'll do social media too, like, hey, we're doing a survey. We want to hear from you. Those individuals that go in and take that survey, we will not have a code for them. We will have a separate link to be able to aggregate and report that information to you. But, we're very transparent about data quality and trying to make sure and prevent any sort of changes. And for a small community like yours, that's really important. Like we're going to want to do everything we can, but 50 people can change the outcome and support levels because it's just a small universe of only 1,000 registered voters. And that's just part of the equation. So, we're trying to be as upfront and as honest with you about just some of the challenges of a very small community, and a community survey is a different kind of survey than sort of a ballot measure survey because people may have strong opinions one way or the other for whatever reason of why they may or may not want home rule.
Any other questions? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-0309, approving professional services proposal with Magellan Strategies.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much. We are going to do our best to knock it out of the park. It's but like I said, we've been working with Winter Park down the road, and I know the communities are not exactly the same, but thank you, Sarah, for reaching out and everybody, and we're gonna do everything we can on this project. So thank you for the opportunity. I really do appreciate it, and for your time tonight. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you,
thank you,
David.
David.
Thank you, Gord.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, we'll be in touch. Y'all have a good evening.
All right, you too. Okay. Back on track with letter F, marketing update. Sarah W.
Mayor Sirk-Benick, trustees, I'm Sarah Wick, Marketing and Communications Manager here for your quarterly marketing update. I'm trying to make these as exciting as possible, so I'm using less numbers, more pictures and graphs. We're trying.
Right.
Trying to not bore you and myself while I'm doing this. So,
Have to dumb it down for us.
huh?
So you have to dumb it down for
So we're going to go through the social media stats per usual. Then the website stuff, active marketing campaigns, events, and all things marketing and events that I have going on. So first, social media. So I switched this up a little bit. These are the quarterly numbers for net follower growth and engagements. And I started with Q2 in 2025 because I think that's kind of when I started doing these. And then that last line is the most recent one. So you can see the numbers fluctuating per quarter. But the good thing is that when you look at it long term, there's always growth. So even though it looks like, we're not really losing anybody, the growth is just fluctuating with the growth and the engagements in Facebook. And so you can see annually we had just under 1,400 new followers for our Facebook page. And these were our top Facebook posts. The first one was Fire and Ice. The second one was when Michael Bennett came to see us. And then the third one was our new, the announcement of our new live cameras. Which one? I'm assuming that you didn't look at the presentation beforehand. Because if you did, then you know the answer to this. But which one do you think got the most comments in the month of January? Any guesses?
Windstorm.
Hmm?
Windstorm.
Nope. It was the Michael Bennett when he came to see St. Louis Landing. St. Louis Landing also gets it gets a lot of comments. Some of them, most of them are spicy. And then you throw a politician in, and then you get super spicy.
I have to crop myself up too. I'm sure, but it didn't work.
So this is the numbers, the quarterly numbers for the Instagram page. Again, you can see the numbers fluctuate a little bit, but not to worry because there's always growth annually. And for this account, we saw almost 800 followers in 2025.
So why is the first quarter 2026 so far down? I mean, is it because the quarter's not done yet?
That's no, that's a good question. So I was kind of doing a little bit of research because I saw that too. It's after the holidays. People just aren't engaged. It's kind of a slow time of the year. I think what we're gonna see is that our numbers are gonna jump up in summer. Like you'll see that.
You don't have quarter one of last year.
Hmm?
Right.
So how did quarter one, how do we compare quarter one this year versus last year? I guess that's not on the graph.
Right, right. I mean, I can get you those numbers. Yep.
I'm just wondering if it's seasonality or is it,
My guess is,
Going
yes,
down.
it would be seasonality.
okay.
And that's what it tends to be, or events going on too. Like it'll fluctuate, like there'll be more engagement and followers if there's an event happening.
Well, Fire and Ice was,
Yeah.
there were a lot of people there this
Yep.
year.
On the Jane, yeah, and the Jane 50th too, I think was a big deal and helped drive some traffic this way as well.
Yeah. But it's not showing up here.
Where?
I mean, you look at January 2025 and January 2026 right here, you've got a 41 net increase for January of 2025, and then for January 2026, 56. I mean, not a huge increase, but a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So these were the top Instagram posts. Again, Fire and Ice is the main driver in all of the interactions. So events always do well. Which of our Instagram videos do you think got the most views in February? So the first one was snowmaking. Of course, we had to make snow for Fire and Ice this year. Second one was another Fire and Ice. It was about the shuttle buses. And then the last one I have shared is a time lapse.
Time lapse has to be the most viewed.
It wasn't. It was the snowmaking. Surprisingly.
Yeah.
All right. So this is Explore Fraser Instagram. This is more tourism based. Again, you'll see the numbers fluctuate as they do. You can see that massive net follower growth in Q4, and you'll ask me, why did that happen? Again, it could be seasonal. It could be whatever I was posting. I would just have to dive deep into the posts and the content that I was using. It could be one video that made that happen. But again, even though the numbers do fluctuate, we still see an increase overall. And so on that account, we saw just over 1,400 new followers. And these were the top Instagram posts for Explore Fraser. It was the time lapse and then announcing the applications for Mural Fest. We're taking applications right now, and then another Fire and Ice video. This is our YouTube channel stats. This is the little engine that could just started, adding more videos to our YouTube channel. So don't get frustrated with these numbers. It's actually decent since it's only been the past year that I've been really working on it. And it is growing. So we had just under 200 new followers. And these were our top videos. The first one was the Ride Ski Save video that I had shared, that we had shot like at the end of 2025. And then another, it's the YouTube short of the time lapse from Fire and Ice. And then the Find Your Flow on Snow video. And how do we compare to other communities? We do have a strong audience compared to other small mountain towns. We have a higher level of engagement. Local content also resonates strongly with the community, which makes sense. And quality posts perform even with fewer. And our opportunities increase Instagram growth to match our competitors' pace, use more reels and videos, increase posting consistency for better visibility, and then expand tourism content to compete for visitor attention. Overall, we saw strong overall reach. Audience growth continues to grow. Video content is performing well. And then event content drives engagement, as we've seen. And here's some opportunities that we could participate in. Increase Instagram engagement use more short-term video. Think YouTube shorts do very well if you can get people to watch them. I still haven't figured out the algorithm. Seems like I'll post kind of a cruddy video and it'll get a lot of views, and I'll do like a time lapse and then it won't get any. So I can't figure it out. So if one person watches it and shares it, then, you know, everybody else in the world will. And then the hyper local content always does really well too. Think wildlife and events. All right, onto our websites. So Fraser, Colorado, that's our town website where people can go to pay bills and find other information. We had an average of 10,000 monthly visitors, which is good. They're not sticking around too long, just 21 seconds. Our top page is our homepage and the webcam. And then our top audience is Denver and Englewood. Explore Fraser, a little bit higher. We have 16,000 monthly visitors average. They're sticking around on the website 5 minutes, which means they're researching and maybe watching videos or looking for information. So that's really good. As of last week, when I did this report, Find Your Flow on, or Fire and Ice was #1 page. And then after that, Find Your Flow on snow. Right now, it's the Find Your Flow, all the mountain biking stuff, because I have an ad going, which we'll see. Our top audiences are Colorado, California, and Missouri. How are they getting to Explore Fraser, Colorado? A lot of it's direct, so they're just typing it in and it's popping up. That could be, I mean, they've visited the page before, so it's stored in their history. The next is search, so they're getting on Google, and after that are ads, referrals, think Play Winter Park and Fraser, Colorado, and then also social media.
So we advertise on Google.
Mhm.
How much are we spending on Google ads? They do it by clicks, right? I mean,
It depends. You can set them up different. Like for the Fire and Ice ad, I think I spent around 1,500. So I would start that. I started that in November and then ran it up until the weekend of.
so you only get charged if they click on it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you can usually what I'll do, like for the DDA, I set up an ad for them. I can set a budget and a length of time. Like I set the budget for $3,000 for them. And at the end of the time, it hadn't spent the $3,000. It was only 28. So this is the only digital ad we have running right now. It's for people that are starting to plan their summer vacations, mountain biking specifically, and gravel riding in Fraser. Some of the headlines look like start planning your Fraser bike trip, plan your Fraser single track adventure, you know, getting that idea in people's heads. Oops. Again, when I did this, which was a week ago, only 67 people had clicked, and I just checked before I jumped up here, and I think it has like 2,000 clicks already, and I've spent around $350. So right now, the Find Your Flow is the #1 page that people are visiting because of this ad. And we have 2 new Fraser cameras. The one in the corner that has the little play button, that is an old one that's on the top of Town Hall. That's streaming live on YouTube right now. And then there's 2 new ones. One is obviously you can see overlooking the Lions Ponds, and it's been getting some great sunrise and sunset shots. And then there's another one that's posted up there. Eventually that's going to be our snow stake. It's not really complete yet. We need to build the platform so the snow can collect, but like we have some time till next winter. I don't think we'll be getting that much snow. That is one of the shots that the cameras captured. And the great thing about this, if you do go into this, you can download the images. It creates a time lapse. You expand the window and then you can scroll through and pick the image that you want and then download it and share it with your friends or put it on your desktop like I do. So now is the Fire and Ice recap. Just met with the Public Arts Committee, and you know, the overall feedback is kind of always the same. People want to see more snow sculptures. This one was less mud, which we can't really do anything about. More lighting on site. And we had the business burn off where the businesses created like their little totems to burn. So we're going to continue to do that. And then we're switching it to the first weekend of February versus the second weekend. Because as we saw this weekend or this past Fire and Ice, it overlapped with Presidents, which didn't seem to be that big of a deal, like crowd wise. But I think business for the businesses, they would like to see it on not such a busy weekend. Did you have any feedback on Fire and Ice?
Yeah, I agree. The week before President's Day weekend would be
Better.
ideal.
Mhm.
Wasn't that early? I mean, President's Weekend was like a week early. And we felt.
It changes. Yeah, it changes. So that's why we wanted to move it. So, right.
Yeah, it's the 15th this coming year in 2027. So Fire and Ice would be the 6th.
We looked. And here's some pictures from Fire and Ice. And we did have to make snow, and I think the pile is almost gone.
I'd like to see the business burn off things separate from the bonfire.
You mean,
Like if they're standing up, if we could just light them on fire wherever they are.
oh, like maybe like separate, like mini fires? So they're
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe have them get lit first and then we all go over to the bonfire.
You know, I think Jed Henry was actually, he was like, I think we should build like little, bonfires underneath so we can set them around and then light them up separately. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That'd be good.
So what's next? We have the bike park grand opening celebration on May 30th. Picnic in the Park starts June 30th. Mural Fest is August 7th through the 9th. As I said, I'm going to continue the Find Your Flow marketing campaign. The Eisenhower statue will be coming back I talked to her today and she said early May we will have him back. So we need to figure out where we want to put him. And then the Sargents, which they're a local couple in Fraser, will be donating a moose sculpture. So we're working on that too. That's it. Any questions, concerns?
How big's the moose?
3/4 of a life size
Okay.
is what
So
we're
it's
talking about.
Smaller. Park.
Yes, yeah. And it's made by I think it's Devil's Rope Studio out of Michigan, somewhere in the Midwest.
It's made out of barbed wire.
Mm-hmm.
So people won't climb on it.
Climb on it.
Right.
That's like the initiation.
It's not a photo op.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing? All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm looking up Devil's Rope Studio. All right. Staff briefing, 10-year and 20-year wastewater treatment plant capacity planning, your projections, Paul.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. You guys have a staff briefing just to touch base on a 10 and 20-year projection for EQRs within the town. As it says in the background, the Joint Facilities Operation Committee, the JFOC, received a request to begin the process for a plant upgrade per Section 2C, expansion of joint facilities of the JFOC agreement. The first step of that request is to do this 10 and 20-year projection. And so what I did is I went and took approved plans that we've got sketch plans on, things that we think will be built in the next 10 years. So in that first table there, you can see all of the projects that we think will be online in the next 10 years based on approvals and communications with developers. I will say that a lot of this is based on PDDs or out of town service areas where densities can move and change. So just kind of projecting what those ultimate water rights are in order to see what the EQRs are is kind of where I went with this. If you look at Byers Peak Ranch, I spoke with the county yesterday. It may be actually 14 additional apartment buildings, but the 2 existing buildings that are online, a company, they total out to 19.1 EQRs. So multiplying that out across 13 more, that's where I got the 124.15. So just trying to project what that looks like over the next 10 years. Then if you look at Rendezvous, 12E and 14E, those are the numbers that are on the PDD. Those numbers can change based on what densities they're putting in there, what those units are. For example, a 1-bedroom and a studio only count as 0.3. A 2-bedroom is 0.6, and then it's 1, and then it goes above for 4-bedroom. So trying to look at those. If we look at the Village at Grand Park, 320, that number is, again, changes depending on what goes into those commercial spaces. So currently that 320 is just based on total square footage at the commercial rate. I believe it's 0.6, but if it goes to retail, that number drops way down because it's not expected to have, bathrooms and things of that sort if it's just a retail shop. So kind of looking through those. And then when we looked at 20-year, that was the harder one because we have two big developments, Byers Peak Ranch, which has a set defined number of SFEs that we agreed to in the out-of-town service area. And then Grand Park, which we all know things can change. We can go from apartments to single family. So that's just kind of taking the total Maryville water right and trying to distill what's already been approved, what's already built in Rendezvous, things that we have known, like filing 1 and filing 2, trying to look through some of those, and then just putting a number there. So that's not number of units, that's number of EQRs. So that number could easily be 1,200, 1,300, depending on 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom things there. So if we're looking at this, as we're looking to expand the plant over the next 10 years, town of Fraser would need roughly 1,500 more EQRs. And then at the 20-year, we would need 3,350 more EQRs, which would take our total need of EQRs up to 5,375, which is roughly an increase of 2,500 above what we already have allocated and left. So the last table shows what is currently allowed per our permit. So Grant County number 1 was allowed 3,155. They have 271 left. We were allowed 2,896 with 873 left. Winter Park Ranch was allotted 2,467 with 791 left. We reached out to both of those sanitation districts for what their expected 10 and 20 are. And ultimately, Winter Park Ranch has a net negative of roughly 404 of what they expect they would need in the next 20 years. So currently there's some discussions with Grand County number 1 to lease those until the plant is expanded. Winter Park Ranch, they gave us out to 2040, and then they just did a 3% growth number, and that's where they got their 1740 at 20 years. So they would need a net increase of 1,480 at that plant upgrade. So when we did everything, it looks like the plant will need to potentially double in size based on our 10 and 20. And that doesn't take into account anything that happens outside of town, or if we ended up with another out-of-town service area or anybody who potentially would like to annex in. This doesn't take any of that into account because we're just looking at inside the town boundaries. So this was just to let the board know kind of what happened and where we think we're going. Again, those numbers can change based on communications I get back from developers. We've reached out to them just to kind of see what they thought they had in 10 years. But then we also looked at where we knew where we were going and things that are already approved and aren't built out yet. And so that's where we got the 10-year, just thinking that most of that will be built out in 10-year. I would say the one on the 20 would be the old Summerall property. That is one that could possibly move before 20, maybe into the 10, just depends on, I think, the market and what it looks like to build those. I think it was 6 or 7 condo buildings there. Are there any questions?
Grand County number 1, is that Byers Peak Ranch?
That is the northern half of Winter Park. So
The downtown.
downtown, main street of Winter Park.
Okay.
From Vasquez, essentially all the way to the border to Fraser is Grant County number 1.
Byers Peak Properties is our out-of-town service area, so that counts in ours. So it's on the 3rd chart. Byers Peak Ranch has roughly.
So that counts as the town of Fraser.
That's the town of Fraser, yes.
Okay.
So there's over 1,000 left there because they've only got the 2 buildings online so far.
Am I correct? I heard you say that this does not include the projections do not include the Jones properties to the north.
Does not, those would be.
So,
that
I
budget-
mean, that could be thousands.
But that would, right, I mean,
That, I mean, to not,
I would, if we were to look at that parcel, I would put it on the same level as the Maryvale system roughly, which is 2,200.
Hmm.
No, I'm sorry, 28.
but that could, I mean, something of that size could trigger another expansion is what I'm saying. So
Yes.
how do we not include that?
Because it's not, it's an unknown. I mean, it's a thought, but we don't have any density ideas. We don't know what that would come in. We don't know what the zoning would be. So we have no idea.
I think we ought to make some projections. I mean,
I'm not a developer, so I don't know what a developer would look at out there and what they would want to do, what kind of densities they would want.
maybe that's a discussion for us to have, because
Well, and
I think that's a huge void that
I mean,
whether it's answered next year or the next year, it's going to change those plans. And so we need to take a crack at understanding that somehow.
yeah, I mean, a lot of that's based on what water rights they can bring to the table, or that can be acquired for that northern area. We're still finalizing those details. We are really just kind of starting the process here with engineers and as per the GFOC agreement, each sanitation district, when one of them requests an extension or an expansion of the plant, each district has to evaluate the 20-year projections based on what's entitled. But not to say that we can't have conversations here this summer as far as like if we do want to look at including some EQRs for that development based on maybe getting some better understanding of what water rights are available to the north. We're close. We almost have that, but we just don't have it. But we are required to provide these numbers as triggered on a timeline per the JFOC agreement that we have to provide right now. I mean, if it was up to me, we would be able to wait a little while, but we are obligated to provide these projections based on what is currently entitled.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with the numbers that are there or anything like that. I just think that if we're going to have another 2,000 units added in 2 years, we ought to have a placeholder in there with some kind of logic.
Well, and we've talked about this pretty extensively, and you know, we'll see what the rate of development is over a 20-year period. And
yeah, we were supposed to be done in 20 years.
Well, I think you know things are constantly evolving with that, but you know, it's hard to know what the development pace is going to look like. And we haven't gotten that feedback, I don't think, from the developers.
Not at this time, but I mean, I'd say the 10-year is pretty close based on the things that are on here. Because a lot of this is already approved. So the big guess is kind of the 20-year, and some of that could move up, some of these could push back. But just knowing that something was approved, that the developers could go right now and build on those lots based on what's already been approved by the.
Yeah, I understand that.
And there'll
And the
be
fluidity,
expansion improvements that have to be structured a certain way. I mean, you can't, if the need is to increase the EQR to double the size of the plant, they're gonna look at the current tranches and how those are designed. And, you know, we're not gonna just shave it down to the size that we need based on the numbers needed. There may be some additional capacity just naturally through these designs.
Oh, yeah, you might do 3 trains and leave 1 sit, yeah.
So it's really just kind of starting those conversations. Yeah, it's a kind of a difficult thing when we're, you know, town's been talking about annexation for a long time. A lot of it's been relying on water. You gotta get somebody to come to the table with all that. Like there's an extensive process we have to go to for potential annexation. So the plant has room. The plant has room to expand. And that could be included, like, you know, upfront with the expectation for annexation that you're going to need to expand that plant. You know, it's similar to when like Grant Park and Rendezvous came in, we had expectations that they had to contribute funds towards that plant, and then you know just paying the EQRs as they develop and bring those on. But just reserving that initial capacity is something that we would just require with annexation. So even if we have plans, those plans could be amended to include any type of additional tranche to accommodate any development to the north. It's just kind of a cart before the horse thing right now.
Yeah, it's an unknown. So How long does it take to expand the plant?
So I think it's gonna be probably 5 or more years. I mean, we don't even have our new permit. We may get it at the end of the month. But then there's a lot that goes into it. If the plant goes over 2.5, we probably need 2 more FTE full-time employees down there because they'll have to be run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because we've crossed the threshold with the state health department. So there's a lot going into this. I think as part of before the next JFOC meeting, I think we'll talk about it. But can we better utilize the plant? Our flows are at a certain level. Can we do some optimization to get us 3 more years? Can Grant County #1 lease those existing EQRs from Winter Park Ranch to get us another 5 years to put off that? But at some point, the cost of putting the expansion off costs more than if we do it now. So not going to get cheaper I mean, we've seen it with what we're going on with the filter plant. So it'll just get more expensive every time. And it gets more expensive as the permit limits get lower. So
So a lot of it is getting the permits.
well, I mean, we'll have our new permit and then we'll have to, the engineers will look at what it takes to expand the plant to, using these numbers, at 20 years, we need to be at 5 million gallons per day instead of 2.499. We're doubling the number of EQRs that are needed.
So I mean, if you're adding, even if we were to add 1,000 EQRs to this, I mean, the costs are pretty up there. I mean, just with this expansion, we'll see what the engineers come up with, but I mean, it's going to be in the ballpark of 25 to 35 million. Just to accommodate the expansion. I mean, that's not, obviously entirely for the town, but it's going to be a substantial cost to the town for our portion that we're going to be looking for. And then it's just like, if you pay that up front, but you're not actually annexing for 5 or 10 more years, it's just a big brunt to pay ahead. It's just a risk, I think, to some degree.
Well, based on the projections, town of Fraser would then become the largest user of the plant. So currently we're below Grant County #1. We would then take on a larger allocation of costs because we will have the larger contribution to the plan.
Yeah, West Mountain's huge. The Planter, Byers Peak properties are huge. So and yeah, a lot of development still remains.
Any other questions? No. Again, just projections. Nothing is perfected on this. Because I know that things can move around, so those numbers can change. They can't use them all up depending on what their development is, but trying to maximize what water they have available. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, updates. Staff?
I've got a few for you. Katie Souls, her town board representation on the Downtown Development Authority will be expiring in June. So just to put that on your radar, we will be bringing this to the board here in the near future as far as what you want to do. You could extend it so that it just expires if she decides to run for re-election or not. We can at least extend it to the end of the year essentially so that she can finish out her term. Otherwise, the board can consider just going ahead and replacing the town board representation on the Downtown Development Authority. So just something to think about. We'll bring that forward again here soon. We just want to make sure that's on your radar. We have a new employee at the drop, since the town board approved that position moving from part-time to full-time. I think it's going to pay dividends. We have Buffy at the drop now. If you haven't met her, she's fantastic. Customer service feelers have been getting out there has been great. So happy to have her on with our streets crew and then working the drop on those days that we're operating there. So glad to have her on. And then just keeping in mind that Antoinette has been pinging you guys about CML in June. June 22nd and 26th are the dates, and they will be in Westminster. So take a look at those dates, and when you can, please respond to Antoinette so that she can reserve lodging and get you guys all set up with that. That's all I got.
The DDA thing, I would suggest that we extend her because 4 of these seats are gonna be up. So to just appoint somebody else who might be in the same situation. a few months later.
Mhm. Yeah, just extend the match, the
Yeah.
election, basically.
Rather than find yourself, you didn't really do any good.
Right. Yeah.
If you guys feel like you have consensus, I know we're missing the Katie's today, but if you guys feel like you have consensus with that,
Yeah,
um,
it does make the most.
we'll draft.
I
we'll
can
draft
throw
something.
in real quick. Katie has said she is happy to stay on, but she's also happy to provide the opportunity to somebody else that would like to do it. So
I think you have to be.
I like Katie.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, the people that are gonna be up for election,
I
but
don't think you need a motion.
yeah,
but we'll bring
let's
this
just-
forward that basically
yeah, keep
pathways that, and you can always change your mind on that.
Got it.
Sounds good. Um,
So I was at CAST and they're concerned about Proposition 125, which you probably know, or 175, I guess. It's a ballot initiative that's being brought by the Colorado Contractors Association. They're collecting signatures to get it on the ballot in November 26th. And basically, it's the promise to increase money for roads will appeal to voters, but it also brings no new money and instead diverts nearly $540 million from the state's budget.
Hmm.
So multimodal transit and would be really in jeopardy. So maybe something that we need to, they would like us to take a position on and be aware of it so that people understand that it really impact.
We can bring that back as a discussion item with
Yeah.
determination of support and not support.
sounds good. I'm looking at my calendar, trying to think if there's any updates I have, but I don't think I do. So. No other updates? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?